terrific movie. I have to, I mean, you seem like a no bullshit kind of guy, so I'm going to ask you a no bullshit kind of question. Watching this clip reel, you, my friends, have played a lot of psychotic characters. You have. And so, you know, I have to wonder, why do you think you were so good at it?
Well, because I got a lot of asshole game. I was good at it, probably because, first of all, I had to be good at it because I began with Mr. Kazan in Strasbourg, and they taught me what I know. And when they finally released me from class and sent me to Hollywood, I was 4 years after everybody else got to go. I mean, Gadge had 5 of us under contract. He had Rip Torn, Pat Hingle, Bruce Dern, Geraldine Page, and Lee Renner. And I was kind of the baby of that group. But they held me back and they wanted to keep working on me because I'd never acted before, so I didn't know what I was doing. And they kind of thought they had maybe a Frankenstein because the first year I worked with them, they never allowed me to do a scene where I got to speak. And I always just worked on, you know, building the instrument from the inside out, which is where I developed my whole theory that my business partner, Wendy, and I have a company called Publicly Private. And that's what I try and do as an actor. I try and open this up, expose it to y'all, and keep it honest, always from me. And Alexander feels that way about directing also, and so do a lot of other people along the way. So I get to Hollywood with all that background, and my agent meets me at a plane on Memorial Day, the day before Memorial Day, which is a Sunday. I go to Warner Brothers and I read for a show called Surfside 6, which is one of those Warner Brothers series where Roger Smith was in one, and somebody was a Diane McBain, and Connie Stevens, and people like that. And I got the part. He put me in some shitbag room on the Hollywood Strip where you paid $1 a night to live, and around the corner were Messrs. Nicholson and Harry Dean Stanton. So they were the first people I met when I came to Hollywood. And I'd go to casting sessions after this thing. And the first one I went into, I learned with Mr. Kazan early on, everybody who comes to Hollywood gets one day where the door opens a crack and you get in the room. Well, they say you're in at 3:10 and the next one's in at 3:20. That's bullshit. Because the day I went on this, Harry Dean Stanton was in at 3:12 and I was in at 3:10. And so I go in, and Lynn Stallmaster, who was a very famous casting director, was on the telephone. I grabbed the phone and slammed it down. I said, hey, fuck, I've got 1 minute and 40 seconds of my life yet. You know, and for whoever girl you're calling, we can get you one that's better than that. So that was it. And
so you had to burn an impression really fast as well. Yeah. Do you, watching this clip also, I'm noticing there are a wonderful amount of Westerns. And I know that you worked on Gunsmoke and a lot of television Westerns at the time. Do you miss that? Do you miss the way that TV used to be on Westerns?
I don't miss episodic television. The wonderful thing about Gunsmoke was I did that Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte thing with Miss Davis and Mr. Hadley. And 3 years after doing that, I go on a set of Gunsmoke for my yearly. You know, if you died in a television show, you could do the next year and the next year because they didn't have to pay your characters, so it's no residual. Right. So Walter Hill, who was the second assistant director on Gunsmoke, who was a phenomenal director and writer himself, but then he wasn't. And he said, wait till you see the surprise we got for you today, who's playing your mother. Well, sitting in the chair is Betty Davis. And I got tears in my eyes. And she said, and what's the matter with you, Bruce Dern? I said, Betty, it's a Gunsmoke. But who's going to pay for my cigarettes? She said, I took an ad in Variety last week announcing 7-time Oscar nominee and 5-time winner looking for work. Nobody answered, so I'm doing the Gunsmoke. So I'm off.
Even when you were playing these smaller roles on TV westerns, and then also at the beginning of your career, you were able to bring out really beautiful performances in the lead actors that you were playing with. And the film I'm thinking specifically of, an early film of yours, is Will Penny. I don't think I've ever seen Charlton Heston that open.
That's the best movie he ever made as far as I'm concerned, the best performance. And I was surrounded by, my dad was Donald Pleasance. You know, Matt Clark was a brother, the tall thin Gene, and Rutherford was my other brother. And Tommy Grise directed it, and Heston was the star of it. And he was as honest in that throughout the movie. You thought he was just a couple, out on the line. And the other thing about that movie that always touches me is his co-star was Joan Hackett, who was one of the girls in the group, and who died before she was 50. And she had a beautiful, she's also in Support Your Local Sheriff, which I have another clip of. And she was just a beautiful dame. And one day we were talking on the set of something else where I saw her at, like in 1972 or 3. And she said, I said, that high school, that Catholic school you went to in, where the Forest Hills or someplace around there, she went and said, you told me once the girl that you went back and forth to school with, who was that again? Viva. Oh, nice. So, here's the nicest little Catholic girl I met, grew up with Viva, and that was the fun of television. Secondly, when we first came to Hollywood, my generation, we still got to work with the legends. And the kids aren't lucky now, because we're not legends, for Christ's sake. Clint looks like a legend because he looks good on a horse. But otherwise, these people were legends. And why do I say they were legends and we aren't? Because they were bigger than life. And they were bigger than life because A, they had that type personality, and B, they were in a studio system that protected their private lives and nobody knew what they did. And that was fun and that was exciting. And if you went with your ears and eyes open, you went to college. And then 2 years later, we went to the University of Pullman, which for 5 years was like, with Roger Corman, you have on the set of The Wild Angels, Peter Bogdanovich, Francis Coppola, Jonathan Demme, and these guys are grips and run around electricians and stuff. And so we were all learning at the same time, and the thing Roger did for us in the mid-60s was he gave us big parts that were starring parts, billed us above the title, and paid us scale and gave us a box lunch. But for it, we got to act together. And Richard Rush directed that bit with Jack and I, that you see in a movie called Psycho.
Right.
And Jack looked ridiculous in that movie. He also did look terrifically in the Barbra Streisand movie On a Clear Day I Can See Forever, where he played her brother. But the episodic television was the beginning of your career because there was no long-form television. There weren't no miniseries or anything like that. It was just episodic. And I tried to work my way up so I could get a lead in a show. Well, Redford, he came here, Warren Beatty, they came, or I keep thinking in California, but they came into the business and they just automatically went to work. And like Mr. Strasberg had told me just before I left, you're going to be over 60 years old before they get who you are and what you do. Because you become the characters you play, and a lot of times they think you're just some real jerk off that got off the road and put you in the movie. And I got my biggest, and so the easiest way to work was to be a prick.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, and there's a clip that we saw that I do identify as a real turning point for you, and there's a clip from Silent Running, and I think that is that's one of the first real
Well, that gave me a chance to star in a movie, B, work with one of the true wizards in the history of Hollywood, made up of Strumble, and C, I always liken Silent Running to what happens when you go in the Sierras, it starts to snow and you're with your 2 dogs in the traffic, you can't get out. They become your companions. And you learn, you treat them just like human beings. thing that wraps around you and could kill everybody in town. And I just felt that, that's what they wanted me to do, and I fought, and Douglas was the first one that came forward and said, and I was the 17th choice. But Mike Ruskoff was the producer, and he'd been my agent, so they put me together.
One of the things I love about Silent Running, and if you haven't seen it, please see it, is that it's a very soulful science fiction movie that comes before Star Wars, before the big epic science fiction movies. And it makes me want to ask you, which of your movies do you find that you have resonated with politically, socially, that you're especially proud of? I know around that time you also played Tom in a version of Great Gatsby. And
well, I'm not good at looking back, and actor's only as good as his next film. So, right now, Nebraska is my next film that folks can start to see soon. And but looking back on it, I'm proud of any movie I make because 80 people, 100 people go somewhere. And here, some bleak, really grim towns with population 57 people, 9 houses in a town. And it's very, very tough. But you become a family. And those families, unfortunately, when the movies are over, very rarely do I see people that were on that movie, except maybe 1 or 2 in the next decade. Because they're all different people. So it's that family environment for a year. And guys come with wives and go home with the makeup girl. It just goes on and on. But it was an education. It gave me a chance to, move up from the 5th cowboy to the right to the 4th and so forth and so on. But Doug Trumbull was the one.
I think there is also another turning point. We are going to get to Nebraska in just a moment. I love talking about that film with you, but coming home is obviously a major point of a critical moment for you, where you were accepted as a broader actor than previously, and I wonder how much of a box it might have felt for you up until that point.
How much of what?
Like feeling maybe that you had been typecast to some extent as a crazy. That you were so good at that, and that you really had to earn that kind of critical respect. Was there a point when you said, no more of these nut job actors? I have to.
You can't say that because you can't make a living there. So I hung in there as long as I could, and in coming home, I thought I'd turn the corner. I thought we'd all turn the corner. John didn't play sweethearts all the time. Jane could be a bitch in a movie. Al Ashby made movies about people that were prickly personalities. So we didn't see it on paper that it was going to be like it was. And the day we started shooting, they started shooting Apocalypse and The Deer Hunter. We all started the same day. And all came out the same year, except they delayed Apocalypse and it came out the next year. But in the Oscars that year, it was either The Deer Hunter Coming Home and a little kid from Close Encounters who got nominated for an Oscar, and all he said in Close Encounter was, "Allah."
At least he didn't.
Right, and at the end, I go to the first screening of Coming Home, and my mentors through the era, as were Jack's, was a company called BBS, Bert, Bob, and Steve, Bravelser, Schneider, and Steve Bonner. And they made a series of movies starting with Head and ending up with Peter Davis's documentary Hearts and Minds. And they had a big influence on us because they made Nebraska. They made for much less money, but they made The Last Picture Show. They made 5 Easy Pieces. They made Easy Rider. They made Drive, he said. They made Jaglin's movie A Safe Place, and then Peter Davis made Hearts and Minds. Pretty good movie. And it was exciting time, but I started getting frustrated. And you get a little panicked and think, well, there's only, as we get older, there's only so many roles for guys in your age group. And I wasn't getting them. And suddenly, Al Ashby and Jerry Hellman put me in Coming Home. And that was the beginning. And I was thrilled to be there, but I wasn't sure how I was going to get there because they shot in the hospital the first 6 weeks. So I wasn't aware at the screening, Barbara Streisand comes up to me afterward, and everybody was very, very nice to all of us, but me also, they were very nice to, and saying, hey, and saying what you said, that's something I didn't expect from you, and so forth and so on. And Barbara Streisand came by me and said, why do you always play such a prick in films? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, he's such a bastard, he goes to Vietnam. And I said, go over and talk to Jane. She went to Vietnam. Go with her. Take Neil Diamond and all the flowers you can find with you. So it wasn't done yet. And then I did Driver for Walter, which was right after that. And I felt I couldn't get out of it, you know. And it was difficult, and I got a little more panicky. And the difference between what you see in my career and what you see in Nebraska is that I realized the more I pushed, the more I tried to be interesting. Dad said, you're going to get nothing but the fifth cowboy from the right roles your first year. So you be the goddamn most interesting fifth cowboy from the right they've ever seen. So I didn't invent shit to do and everything like that. And I got my package cut in half, let's say, I was given a part in a TV series called Jesse James. My agent called up and says, you're doing a Jesse James TV series for the other day, and you're playing Billy the Kid. So I go down to Western Costume, and I go in, a guy named Austin Felius is running it. He's in charge, and Western was in the back part of Paramount Pictures. And he said, go back there, Bruce, and pick yourself an outfit. So I go back, and a half hour later, I finally put the outfit together. I'm going to be the baddest ass ever as Billy the Kid in this little half-hour TV show. And I got the Palance outfit from Shane, basically, is what I want to do that day. And Austin Felius comes back, he says, Mr. Dern, are you through yet? And I said, yeah, how do you like it? And he just looked at me stunned. He said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm getting an outfit that works for Billy the Kid. He said, Mr. Dern, you're playing Billy the Clerk.
And it wasn't called Billy the Clerk. You know, I do feel like it's a perfect moment now for us to talk about Nebraska, because in a way, like you've been saying, you have a very pragmatic philosophy about keeping working and making the most out of what you got, and making the most out of the role you got, and the opportunities you got, and the 2 minutes with the door open you got. But Nebraska very much feels, for me, like an opening door. It feels like a revelation and something very new from you. And we do have a special guest with us that I'd like to bring out at this point. Please, let's welcome Will Forte. We just watched Nebraska and had a conversation, and it's just such a warm and wonderful film, and it feels like a step forward for both of you guys. And just to change things up, I'd like to ask you both this question. Why do you act? Do you have a philosophy of it? Like, what's the essence of why you do what you do?
You mean in Nebraska or the whole why I'm in the business?
Yeah, why you're in the business.
Yeah.
Especially for Will, because you've made a beautiful career for yourself as a comedian, and this is very different Nebraska, very different kind of performance from you.
You mean why do I act in anything, or why do I try to do it wrong?
Why do you try to do Nebraska?
Oh, I mean, I would be a crazy person if I didn't do Nebraska. If somebody said, oh, will you do this beautiful movie that Alexander Payne is going to direct? You're a crazy person if you don't do it. It was just a chance to get to